So there's a guy holding one of these. That's what this video was claiming. There's a guy holding one of these. And you see the bullet come out. So that's what that was. You saw the bullet come out. And they're saying, this is the guy right here. So he gives the hand signal. This guy comes out from behind. Watch this. So there's the guy. So they're saying that that guy took the shot, and then he immediately walks backwards. Watch this.
And he walks away like nothing fucking
So there he is. These two guys working together. He just walks away like nothing. He wasn't like freaked out. He walks away like he just did something. Again, I'm not saying this is how it happened. I'm saying this is compelling and that people should look into all these theories. So there's the shot, and here's the guy. Does the guy look, does he look freaked out? Does he look weirded out? Does he look like he just witnessed an assassination? No, he looks like he's calmly walking backwards.
And then he joins the group.
Then
the family says that the photo of the young man that is coming up the stairs, which was shared, that blurry image, is definitively not Tyler Robinson. And let me just say, I never thought it looked like him. Neither did you. Okay, face looks different. Face looks more narrow. Also, that person looks taller. Every time I say, I'm like, this person is taller than Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson also appears to have full lips, even though this image is blurry. We're not looking for someone that got fuller lips, and Tyler Robinson looks broader than that individual walking, right? So I'm on board with that person walking up the stairs is not Tyler Robinson, because I feel like it was intentionally blurred. They also never gave us the footage at all, because in order to blur it, they probably needed a static image. Also, the family believes that, and this is really interesting, Tyler Robinson's apartment was staged after his arrest. Now, you will recall that I spoke to Lance's family, and one of the things that Lance's family said was, hey, we own that apartment. They pay rent to us. We've never met Tyler Robinson.
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House, who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed.
The cameras were already rolling before Tyler Robinson even entered the courtroom. The air inside the Salt Lake County Courthouse was heavy, the kind of silence that comes just before history shifts. Reporters whispered, security tightened, and everyone waited for the man accused of committing one of the most shocking political murders in recent U.S. history. Tyler Robinson, 26 years old, the man prosecutors say assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk, a name once unknown to the public, now printed on headlines across the country. It's been months since that day in August when Kirk was gunned down outside an event venue in Phoenix. The motive, still debated, the evidence, mounting, and the nation, divided. In court, Robinson appeared calm, almost unnervingly so. No outbursts, no emotion, just that same blank stare the cameras have captured before. But beneath that composure lies a case unlike any other, one that could define the modern era of politically motivated violence. The prosecution came in prepared. They're calling this premeditated ideological murder, backed by DNA, text messages, and a chilling handwritten note found under Robinson's keyboard. They're seeking the death penalty, claiming Robinson acted out of hate, not impulse. But the defense tells a very different story. They say Tyler Robinson wasn't driven by politics, but by a mental collapse, a man lost in paranoia and emotional breakdown, manipulated by the world around him. And they're not alone. Many who have followed the case see the contradictions. The text messages, "I've had enough of his hatred, some hate can't be negotiated out," sound like conviction, but others read them as despair, not ideology. That's what makes this trial more than just a legal battle, it's a psychological war. Was Robinson a political extremist acting on ideology? Or was he a broken mind, spiraling in isolation until something inside him finally snapped? In this hearing, both sides came ready for war. The defense pushed for more time, citing the mountains of evidence turned over by investigators. The prosecution fought back, accusing them of delay tactics. The judge, Tony Graff, granted the extension, but warned that time is running out for both teams to prepare. And then came the quiet moment that had everyone on edge. The mention of newly submitted forensic evidence, reportedly including additional DNA samples and recovered text data that hadn't been seen before. No one in the room said it out loud, but the implication was clear. This case might still be evolving. As the hearing ended, Robinson was escorted out in silence, leaving behind a room full of unanswered questions and a nation desperate for clarity. Because behind every file, every note, and every piece of evidence lies the one truth no one's sure of yet: why? And in the next part, we'll dive into the evidence itself, the note, the DNA, the messages, and how investigators say it all connects to that fateful moment. The evidence against Tyler Robinson reads like a dark mosaic. Fragments of data, DNA, and digital footprints stitched together by investigators trying to uncover the truth. It starts with a note. A single sheet of paper, tucked under the keyboard of Robinson's home computer. Written in small, deliberate handwriting were the words, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Those 19 words became the foundation of the prosecution's case, a chilling window into premeditation. To them, it was proof that this wasn't a crime of impulse. It was planned. It was personal. But that's just the beginning. Next came the DNA evidence. Forensic teams found Robinson's genetic material on the trigger and stock of the rifle used in the shooting, and on a towel found wrapped around it. To prosecutors, this was undeniable physical confirmation tying him to the weapon. Then came the digital trail. In the hours before the shooting, investigators say Robinson texted a friend messages that now seem hauntingly prophetic. In one of them, he wrote, "I've had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out." For prosecutors, that text was motive, the final piece showing that this was a politically motivated assassination. But the defense sees it differently. They argue those same words are being twisted, that Robinson wasn't threatening violence, but expressing emotional collapse. They say he was unstable, isolated, and spiraling into a mental breakdown triggered by online arguments, personal loss, and obsessive ideation. And then there's the timeline problem, one the defense has quietly hinted they'll exploit. Phone records and GPS data reportedly show gaps, brief windows of time that investigators can't perfectly account for. Those inconsistencies, they argue, might create doubt. Did Robinson act alone? Were others involved? Or could parts of the timeline have been misinterpreted in the chaos of the investigation? Even the so-called confession note is being questioned. Was it truly a confession or a fragment from a private journal, never meant to be seen as a plan? As the evidence was presented, you could feel the courtroom split in two. One side murmured in disbelief, convinced the facts were damning. The other side whispered theories about manipulation, setup, and psychological collapse. And through it all, Tyler Robinson remained motionless, his eyes fixed on the table in front of him, betraying nothing. But then, just as the prosecution wrapped up its summary of evidence, the defense made a move no one expected. They announced they were bringing in new expert witnesses, forensic psychologists, digital analysts, and ballistics experts, all prepared to challenge how this evidence was collected, interpreted, and presented. If they succeed, they might not just weaken the prosecution's case, they could unravel the entire narrative. And that sets the stage for what's coming next, the defense's full counterattack. When the defense finally took the floor, the energy in the courtroom changed. Gone was the sharp, accusatory tone of the prosecution. Instead, lead attorney Rachel Mendez spoke with a calm precision that demanded attention. "This," she said, gesturing toward the board filled with photos, maps, and screenshots, "is not a story of hatred. It's a story of collapse of a man whose mind fractured long before this tragedy unfolded." For the first time, the courtroom saw a different Tyler Robinson, not a cold-blooded killer, but a person unraveling. Mendez began by dissecting the so-called confession note. She argued that the paper wasn't a manifesto or murder plan, but a therapy exercise. According to Robinson's journals and mental health records, he had been asked to externalize intrusive thoughts by writing them down, a technique used in behavioral therapy. "What the prosecution calls a confession," she said, pausing for effect, "was actually a cry for help." Then came the expert witnesses. A forensic psychologist, Dr. Alan Pierce, took the stand and described Robinson's deteriorating mental state, anxiety, hallucinations, and paranoia that had worsened after months of isolation. He testified that Tyler had become fixated on online debates and conspiracy channels, losing his grip on reality. "He didn't see people anymore," Dr. Pierce said. "He saw enemies and symbols." The defense then turned to the digital evidence, calling in a cyber analyst who pointed out inconsistencies in the metadata of the text messages. Some timestamps didn't match local time zones, raising questions about whether the texts could have been manipulated or taken out of context. Then came the bombshell moment. Mendez revealed that the rifle used in the murder had unverified prints, smudges that didn't belong to Robinson. The lab had flagged them as unknown, but investigators reportedly never followed up. You could almost hear the collective gasp in the courtroom. Was someone else involved? Was Robinson being used as a scapegoat? The defense didn't make direct accusations, but they planted the seed of reasonable doubt. Then Mendez delivered the line that would replay endlessly on news channels. "You don't have to believe Tyler Robinson is innocent. You just have to believe the story isn't complete." That sentence hit like thunder. Because deep down, even those convinced of his guilt couldn't ignore one truth. So much about this case still didn't add up. Was Tyler manipulated, mentally ill, or both? The jury sat motionless. The spectators whispered, and as the defense rested their case, all eyes turned toward the prosecution for what promised to be a fiery rebuttal. But before that could happen, the judge announced a surprise motion that sent shockwaves through the room. And that's where everything changed. The courtroom was silent. Everyone expected closing arguments, but instead, Judge Tony Graff adjusted his glasses, leaned forward, and spoke words that would send shockwaves across the entire nation. "The court has just received new forensic data from the state laboratory." Gasps filled the room. The defense attorneys exchanged quick glances. The prosecution froze. The new report contained updated DNA analysis, and it revealed something no one saw coming. The unknown prints found on the rifle, they weren't random. They matched a man already in the federal database, a known associate of Robinson's, someone who had reportedly gone off the grid months before the murder. It was the twist everyone thought impossible. Who was this person? What was his role? And most importantly, why hadn't investigators mentioned him before? The courtroom erupted in whispers, cameras flashing, reporters typing furiously. The judge ordered calm, promising a review before any next steps, but the damage was done. Doubt had exploded like wildfire. The prosecution argued the new DNA didn't change the bigger picture. They said Robinson still pulled the trigger, no matter who else might have touched the weapon. But the defense seized the moment. This, Mendez said, pointing toward the new report, proves what we've said from the start, that this story isn't as simple as it's been told. Outside the courthouse, protests reignited. Online forums lit up with speculation. Was Robinson manipulated? Was there a cover-up? Or had investigators rushed to judgment just to close the case? And after days of deliberation, the jury finally returned with their verdict. Guilty. But not of premeditated first-degree murder. Instead, guilty of second-degree homicide, sparing Robinson the death penalty. When the words were read aloud, Robinson sat perfectly still. No tears, no reaction, just that same haunting calm he had carried since the beginning. And as deputies led him away, Mendez turned toward the press and said, "Justice was served, but the truth is still out there." The crowd erupted, half in outrage, half in relief. The story was far from over, and deep down, everyone watching knew one thing for certain: this case would go down as one of the most controversial trials of the decade. But what do you think? Did justice really prevail, or was Tyler Robinson just a piece in a much bigger game? If you've made it this far, you clearly care about the truth, and this case isn't done yet. So do me a favor, hit that like button so more people hear about this story. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Was this justice or manipulation? I'll be reading every comment. See you in the next case.